You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And welcome back to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. We want to welcome you back to another episode. This is episode 371 of the Snob OS show. On this week's show, we've got Apple leasing you an iPhone. We got the Brag Book app released. We're getting one last earnings call from Tim Cook. The EU straps a facial recognition camera to your car's dashboard. Argentina proves a trophy can't buy sportsmanship. And we have a tip on how you can use your iPhone to measure your height. So like I mentioned before, we want to thank you all for been listening, who's been watching all these years, who's been rating and reviewing, dropping comments, commenting with us on social. We definitely want to thank you for y'all's support. It doesn't mean a little, it means a lot. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, please go to patreon.com/snoboscast. And as a thank you, we'll get you the show early. You'll get exclusive content that you won't find on this week's show. So like I mentioned, we're going to be getting into the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. And the first story we had is the Brag Book app has been released. So Nica, tell us a little bit more about the Brag Book app.
Sure. So it's essentially an iOS only so far app that's really basically a wins tracker. Honestly, this started out as just something for me. And I've learned, the thing with AI is make my life easier for things that I'm going to do. And so, this year has definitely been a challenging one for me. And I was like, you know what? Let me start writing down some of the good things that are happening, whether they be big or whether they be small. So what do? I go over to the Notes app, create a new app, and I title it Today's Wins. And I start tracking just small little things that, are good that are happening. So something I can refer back to, say, you know what? So this week wasn't all that bad. I had this go right, that go right. And it could be something as simple as losing a pound, or I have a new plant that's growing, those types of things. And as I started, tracking things, I was like, this could actually work for performance review time, because I know, when I do them, I try and do it at the last minute for the 6-month review. It's like going back through emails, trying to figure out what I did. And so essentially this app has two components. It has a personal side for your personal wins, and it also has a professional side, a career side, where you can kind of track your different wins that you get at work, whether it's launching a product, leading a meeting, whatever the case may be. And the good thing is there's an export feature. So you can export either in plain text or in a PDF. So you already have your performance review, your end of the year, mid-year review already kind of collated in one place that's kind of tracked throughout the year, so you don't have to run and do it at the end of the year. It was an app that I co-created using the Claude API. So yeah, I haven't really built an app in a really long time, and I was like, hey, this is something that I think was definitely used for myself. And I was like, if nobody else uses it but me, I will do that. But so far, I launched it on Tuesday. Of course, it's in the App Store. You can go to the bragbook.app to get the details, where to, it'll take you right to the App Store to download it. So yeah, so it's something that I kind of came up with on the fly. I'm the queen of side quests, so it was kind of a side quest. I was actually working on a different app, and then I kind of switched, and I came up with this one and got this one built and got it in the App Store in probably about a month.
All right. So tell us about the experience of creating an app using AI.
So I use Claude Code. And what I've learned with this process is the prompting obviously is key. Initially, Claude was creating prompts, and I would just kind of put them into my IDE. I use VS Code to program. That's practically what I use in any development. But what I learned is one of the questions that I asked it as we were going on, I said, I asked it for the outline of what a good prompt is to create, different features of an app, and it kind of broke it down to the different components of what needs to go into it. So it was one of those things I was learning as I was building, and it turned out really well. I For this app, I took a screenshot of what my notes app was, and I upload the screenshot, and it kind of got the essence of what I was doing. And it was able to take a screenshot from my notes app and, and it was able to help me build out an interface. And I think one of the things is important to remember when you're building these apps, when you're writing these prompts, a lot of times what I did was, because I use this thing from beginning to end. So that's from ideation all the way up through marketing. So when I was getting ready to build the app, I said, or to do the content creation for, all the different posts, I said, thinking and operating as a senior marketing professional, what create me a launch day kit. It created a launch day kit, it created a marketing kit, it created a media day kit with all the different assets. It actually built out assets. Of course, I changed them and I modified them, but it gives you a good basis, and you kind of tweak and refine it, because you write something and it would fail, or it wouldn't look the way you want to. You just kind of have to keep iterating over it to get the output that you want. And I have to say, it helped me create the logo. It gave me some ideas of, based on what I was trying to do. And I kind of picked of the options, because I always ask, give me options. Don't just give me one thing. I want to be able to kind of create what I want. So it gave me options. Picked and pulled from different pieces to kind of craft, what I was actually looking for. So it was a very interesting process, and it was pretty seamless and smooth, to kind of work through the full flow. So yeah, so I would definitely give the process definitely a thumbs up. It was definitely not just building something, but it was very informational as well. And it, coming from a person who built things without, code. We just had Stack Overflow back in the day to kind of help you figure out issues. It was definitely a different look at being a software developer, software engineer, architect, all those types of things. When you have, a thinking partner, because again, I had it build out architecture diagrams as well, and I kind of tweaked those. So, I kind of did the full kind of life cycle with all the different parts, or all the different people you would need on a team to kind of do an effort like this.
So, for all the people out there who are thinking about or in the process of building an app, building a website using AI, whether it be Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, whatever the case may be, can you speak to how your background in development assisted in that process, and what tips would you give to somebody who doesn't have a development background that's trying to develop an app using AI? What would be your advice or tips to them as a developer?
So the thing that was most beneficial to me was that I could read the code, I could understand what it was doing, the structure that it built. So when there was an error, or when there was something that didn't work the way I wanted to, I could actually go in and debug it myself. I actually made, some of the edits myself to the code, tweaking the prompts and those types of things. So it definitely, I think in my instance, I was able to get it out so quickly and with the quality that it is definitely due to my technical background. That definitely helps, because I made sure to put in, security features, and making sure, you take into account some of the things that people who may be vibe coding something, who doesn't have the structural background, when it comes to software development, software engineering, all those types of terms. So that made the process I would say, easier and more efficient for me because I understood what it was creating, how it was creating it, and I was able to go in and, manipulate the code myself, to get where I needed to get. Now, for people who don't necessarily have a technical background or a background in software engineering or architecting or any of those types of things, the biggest thing I would probably say that's the most important is understand fully what you want to build. Because if you go in and you start prompting and you're not quite sure, you're kind of dilly dallying, or you don't know how to go to a direction, um, definitely have a firm idea. And honestly, don't be afraid to ask Claude, because I know in one of the instances, something was going weird with my IDE and I couldn't figure out what was going wrong with it.
And
And I
IDE
asked
for
it.
the layman's.
Oh, IDE, that's your development environment. So
Okay.
there are multiple different kinds of things so that you can use. You can use VS Code, you can use PyCharm. It really depends on the type of language that you're using. A lot of the IDEs do allow you to write in uh, multiple different languages. And I said PyCharm. I probably should have said JetBrains. Um, JetBrains make PyCharm, and they make a bunch of other development environments as well. So um, with Claude Code, I know you can work Claude Code in multiple different ways. You can do it in the terminal. I think you can now do it within the desktop app of Claude, or if you choose like I did, I just added the plugin to the IDE that I prefer to use. So again, don't be afraid if you're doing this. Be Claude again is a thinking partner. Gemini is a thinking partner. OpenAI, they're all thinking partners. So be upfront and honest and say, I've never done this. I'm a novice. I don't understand. Help me set up my environment. Use it truly as a thinking partner. If you're thinking it, if you're like, I'm building this, I'm like, I don't know what this means. Have it to do that. Also, have it write tests for you. I did, like I said, I kind of treated this like a full scale development cycle process. So I had internal testing, and then I had beta testers to test it before it went into the app store. So make sure you think about all those different aspects. And if you aren't in this background when you start, that's the question you ask to your thinking partner. I'm new to this. I've never done this before. I don't have a background in software development. What do I need to know? What do I need to do? Help me walk through, help me set up the environment, do all of those precursor things. And then that gives your thinking partner a frame of reference to know where you are. So when it communicates back to you, it's able to communicate in a language that you'll understand and will be able to follow.
So with Claude Code, you say you built this in Claude Code.
Mm-hmm.
Did it give you a? You told it what language you want to develop in. Did you? Did you?
So,
Or did it?
not
Go ahead.
particularly, because when you're creating a iOS app, you have to use Swift.
Swift. Got it.
And so once it starts to build it out, it creates the functions, it creates the different pieces of it in Swift. So
Mm-hmm.
again, for me, I was using VS Code that had um, the Claude plugin. But when I was writing these things, again, that helps when you're setting it up. I have Xcode obviously on my machine. It was building out the files simultaneously. When you link the two together, it was building out. You have to basically tell it, but in my environment, it was building out those Swift files. And I had my IDE connected to Xcode. So when it created those files in my IDE, which was VS Code, it was also doing it in Xcode at the same time. So once you're in, so basically it's two different kind of pieces to this. It's the thing that you're actually building in and the thing that actually builds it. So when you're in Xcode, you can do a simulator for your app. And you get to decide if you want an iPhone 17, if you want an iPhone 11, because different people are on different types of phones, they're on different types of iOSs. So, that simulator is very helpful because it gives you the phone and you're able to manipulate the simulator as you would, your actual device, or you can connect your actual device and it'll, put a provisional version of the app on your phone as well, because there are some things that you can't really gauge on the simulator as opposed to on the actual phone.
All right, all right. Now you said a whole bunch of acronyms, a whole bunch of developy stuff, right? Going back to
Yes.
the person that has zero development background,
Mm-hmm.
you offered us some tips on what to do, but
Mm-hmm.
how efficient or how helpful do you believe AI can be when helping somebody or building for somebody a
Mm-hmm.
website or an app that again has zero development background? Would you advise somebody who's starting or in the middle to take a break, or if they haven't started, to actually do a little research on how the framing, wireframing, architecture, development environment, frameworks, all these things that the novice, or not novice, the person that doesn't have a development background is not going to know anything about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
All they know is they've got some thoughts, they got some things written down, they've got an understanding as to how apps work, because I'm assuming they have apps, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know anything about the stuff, right,
Mm-hmm.
that goes into development.
Right.
How helpful do you believe, as far as a good, polished, finished product, that AI can kind of help this person along the way? Or would you advise them, like, hold up, I know you want to build this thing. Maybe you do need to, do a little reading and understand what's happening so you can make it that much better?
So, like with anything new that you're learning, you always want to do the research first to understand what you're getting into. And the other thing I will say is pack a lot of patience. Again, because of my background, I was able to get this done in less than a month with all of the diagrams and, from idea to in the app store in less than a month. And I was able to do that because I did have a point of reference. You're coming into something new, there is definitely going to be a learning gap, and it depends on your background. And it also depends on, honestly, your demeanor,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to be patient. Even as someone who has as extensive background as I have, I was frustrated at certain points, and I'd be like, "This doesn't make sense. I keep telling it what I want. I keep, changing it to do what I want, and it says it's there and it's not there," and those types of things. So you definitely have to pack your patience. You have to set your expectations. A lot of times I know, people have grand ideas and they have these huge things, and that's great. And we should all, have these big ideas. And there's also the realistic aspect of it, of what you can actually accomplish. So my suggestion would be, even though people, may see it as counterintuitive, start with a small thing
Mm-hmm.
that you know how to work. So say start with a calculator, or start with something basic that how it works, what it looks like, to help you kind of ease your way into it. Every engineer, every developer, I don't care, whether it's been 50 years or whether it's been 5 days, everybody starts with a hello world app
Mm-hmm.
and whatever your preferred language is. And
Oh,
that's
so you're saying
basically,
like build a calculator, kind of start there.
yes, start or
Got it.
something of the similar, something that you're familiar with, that once you get into building it and you're telling your thinking partner what to do, it kind of, if it's something simple that you already understand, to me it helps you to be more able to kind of navigate and figure out what's going on, figure out what's being created, what's happening, rather than starting with your grand idea and you're going in and it's like, what is all this stuff? I don't understand. So I say, like I said, every engineer, every developer, we all start with the Hello World app. Or Hello World program and whatever language that it's doing. And that just gives you the understanding of syntax, of how to run it. Because again, with these, particularly with a mobile app, um, you have to compile your your code. A lot of people outside of software engineering doesn't have a clue what compile means. And so you have to know that, and that's one of the things in the prompt. You have to, if you don't manually compile it, when you write your prompt, tell it to build and succeed. Tell it doesn't finish, the whole creation until it builds and succeeds, because sometimes you have errors, and not just sometimes, most of the time you have errors, because that's just the nature of the beast. And then running the simulator. So just, understanding the different pieces. I always say it's better to, do the research first, so that you know what you're getting into, to save you honestly some frustration, and and to save you from just like completely giving up on the whole process, completely giving up on the thing because you've jumped into it and now it's overwhelming. You don't know what to do and now you're frustrated. And now it's like, it's supposed to be easy. It's supposed to do it for me. Yes, it's supposed to help you. But again, it is a thinking partner and it can do a lot of stuff. But again, like I always say with AI, there's always that human injection. You have to be able to communicate with it so that it knows what to do. Again, it can take some leeway to kind of understand what you're trying to do and take that approach to do it for you, but you still need to be clear on what you're doing.
All right, all right. So, congrats to you on the app launch. Again, tell them what it's about and tell the folks where they can find it.
Sure, it's the brag book. It's a wins tracker for the whole person, from your personal side to your career side. And it gives you the ability to track easy wins. And it also gives you the ability to get performance be ready. I know we've just had the mid year. So if you download it now and start using it by your end year, you can have everything where you need it to be. You can head over to the bragbook.app to get all the details and to get to the link to download the app.
All right, all right. Once again, that is the bragbook.app. Definitely download it and definitely leave some reviews, because I'm pretty sure that helps.
It does.
Feedback for Nica. And not only that, it helps the app get noticed in the App Store. So once again, that is the bragbook.app. Definitely download it. It's for iOS only right now, but it is available in the App Store. So definitely download it and leave a review. All right, we appreciate it. Now, Lex, we're going to move on to our next story. And as you all know, we're using iOS 26.6, but there is some features that is being announced or released in iOS 26.6 that gets your phone specifically ready for iOS 27 and the new Siri AI that's going to be released alongside of iOS 27. So Apple seeded the release candidate for iOS 26.6 this week, a small number, the .6, but its real job is pre-indexing Spotlight on your phone, what you use to search for apps, search for contacts, search for reminders, all those things. It is pre-indexing Spotlight, so phones aren't stuck re-indexing for days once iOS 27 lands. iOS 27 Beta 4 also went out to developers, continuing to build out the rebuilt search architecture behind the new Siri AI, of course, powered by the next generation of Apple Foundation models. So basically, to summarize, you're going to be using Apple AI in iOS 27 to pretty much search your phone, search your contacts, reminders, notes, emails, search your photos, search maps, search all of the stuff that Apple has been collecting on you for all these years that you've had an iPhone and an Apple account. And that is going to take a toll on your phone. So what Apple is doing right now on your current phone with your current data is already trying to index that data to make it that much easier for you to search and for it to show those results when you actually download iOS 27. So basically, they're again, we're being guinea pigs. They're doing their homework in public,
Right.
which is again, you may not see any change if you go download iOS 26.6 right now, but just know when you download it, it's doing some work in the background to get you ready for iOS 27. So I just want to get your take on, Apple preemptively getting folks ready to avoid the cluster that may come when people who are new to iOS 27 and new to Siri AI, they won't get the, oh, why is it taking so long to download? And oh, why can't I do anything on my phone? They're letting you know now, right now, before you get ready. So give us your take on Apple doing this. Will this work, or will this just frustrate people right now to where they may not even bother with Siri AI when iOS 27 comes out?
So Apple is trying to set themselves up for success. They are trying to like move this thing out, as much as they can, so that when you actually get the new build, you're able to cut down on some of the quote unquote prep work that's needed for this, because the foundation of what this new Siri AI is going to be able to do, it is using a lot of spotlight, and they highlighted that during the WWDC keynote to give you an idea of what it's going to take to be able to use this version to do what they want it to do. Are some people going to get frustrated and not want to do it? Sure, because that's just people. But for a lot of people, it's going to really make them going into iOS 27. It's going to make the process a lot easier, not only for the person, the consumer, but it's going to make it easier for Apple as well, because they're going to have probably a lot less stuff on the back end as far as the infrastructure, as far as a churn of, getting, all of these things installed on your machine, on your phone, and being able to get your phone acclimated to it. So it's one of those things where I think it's smart. I don't know if they've done something like this before. I guess they could have. I just don't remember them doing something like this as a preemptive move. But I guess it makes sense because this is going to take up a lot of processing power on your phone. And I think they're trying to get it pre-indexed, pre-cached essentially, so that, once you're already using this iOS 26.6, you're already setting your phone up to be ready for iOS 27. So you won't have some of those delays, some of those issues, performance wise, when it comes to the new app. And they're trying to, I think, keep people from complaining so much. If you do this early, you will have less to kind of, complain about when the new version comes.
Yep, and a little bit more information. The company Apple says the index has been re-architected to be more stable, efficient, and comprehensive, covering both old and new content. After updating, the new infrastructure will begin re-indexing device content automatically. So just wanted to put that little tidbit out there to where if you do download iOS 26.6, your phone may slow up a little bit. You may have be a little bit patient when it comes to searching for things like you normally do using the current version of Apple Intelligence. So just be patient. I don't know if that's a thing I can even ask in nowadays culture, right? But
Right.
be patient, because this is eventually going to be a good thing when you actually get iOS 27, especially if you're not upgrading your new phone, right?
Yeah.
Not most people like me, it's I'm due for a new phone because I
Yeah.
didn't get the iPhone 17. I just skipped it, so I still have my iPhone 16. So I
Same.
have plans to buy a new phone with faster this and a more efficient that and more storage for this, that, and the third, right? So I don't foresee having the same type of issues that somebody that has an iPhone 15 or a 15 Pro or 16 Pro, you know, that's going to download iOS 27, and on an older phone. So if that's you, I would highly advise to get iOS 26.6 now. Let Apple, let the
They're trying
search,
to help you. They're trying to help you.
let them do their thing now. So when you upgrade to iOS 27 on your older device that doesn't have the new sparkly this and that and the third, you won't be stuck
Yeah.
on pause while everybody else is playing with the new Siri AI.
Yeah.
All right, so the next thing up is Q3 earnings came, and this is coming July 30th, and this will be Tim Cook's last call as CEO. Apple reports Q3 2026 on July 30th, with Wall Street expecting revenue around 108 to 110 billion, up from 94 billion a year ago, with EPS, I'm not sure what that is, near 189, $1.89. iPhone 17 is projected to carry roughly 55 to 57 billion of that, but gross margins are expected to slide about 47.5 to 48. Enough of that. Yada, yada, yada. But again,
Number.
yeah. But the more important thing that I want you to take from this will be Tim Cook's last earnings call as Apple CEO. So this will be a changing of the guard where what's his name?
Turnus.
John Turnus. He will be then, I think they even going to maybe even let him say a couple things at the earnings call. I don't know. But all that to say, this may, outside of, we don't know what they're going to do for the iPhone announcement in September. My guess is John Turnus is going to take the wheel. So if he does, and I'm right, you may want to listen in to this earnings call, because this may be the last time we hear Tim Cook in an official role as Apple CEO. So what do you take from this?
I think the fact that they are writing articles about this pretty much lets us know that this is his swan song, and this is when we'll last see him in the capacity as CEO of Apple. I think I was thinking they were going to do something a little bit more grandiose at the Apple event. Visually showing the kind of changing of the guard, but it looks like they may be trying to go with the whole business as usual as approach, letting Tim, kind of take his swan song with talking about how much money Apple made and how good they did, want on upon his exit. And then when September comes, it's business as usual. Here are the new devices. John Turnus is going to do his bits as far as what he's going to say, how Apple kind of plays it up. I think, and I have to say, I guess I'm kind of not surprised as them, kind of taking this business as usual approach to this huge shift in leadership at Apple.
All right. We shall see. Like I said, we don't know what they're doing in September. My guess, again, like I mentioned, my guess is John Turnus is going to take over and do it. I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority of people who want that to happen. I'm pretty sure the majority of people want Tim Cook to actually do the iPhone announcement in September and that be his last thing. I'm pretty sure if they went that route, I'm pretty sure they would get much more of a positive reaction from the crowd versus starting up in September and in John Turnus, to where most people outside of the tech industry probably never heard this dude's name. So it's like, who's this dude, right? And
Right.
maybe kind of, I'm envisioning them trying to hand it over to John Turnus. Maybe Tim Cook says, thank you for this, thank you for that. Now let's turn it over to John Turnus, and he runs the whole event or the whole announcement. I'm pretty sure most people maybe grumble versus Tim Cook just doing the whole thing. And then at the end saying, thank you, appreciate all the years, whatever the case may be. Now go buy them iPhones.
And honestly, I I that's what I thought. Tim would kind of do an intro and lead into John Turnus. But now with this, whole thing being made about Tim's last earnings call, I don't know if we're even going to see Tim at all during this. Again, if they're making a big to do about this earnings call being his last, and I guess when we listen to it, we'll see if he gives a little speech or talks about his time and all those things. If that's going to be his kind of farewell speech, but it seems to me they're really trying to get focus back on the devices and software of Apple and less on the kind of PR types of things around people, especially since you know people have been kind of looking at Tim side eye, and it's one of those things is I think they should start now probably getting John Turnus more visibility because people probably recognize Craig Federighi more than they do John Turnus. And people probably assume that Craig Figueretti is John Turnus because Craig Figueretti always has like a huge
Applause.
part.
Yeah. So I think that's all we wanted to cover for that story. So let's move into second string. So I wanted to get your take on this story because over in the EU, they are mandating, not recommending, not suggesting, mandating in-car cameras to catch distracted drivers. As of July 7th, every new car, van, or truck or bus sold in the EU must include an advanced driver distraction warning system, which is a camera pointed at the driver's face that tracks eye and head movement and alerts you if your attention drifts from the road too long. It's part of a phase of 2 of the EU's general safety regulation alongside mandatory pedestrian and cyclist detecting emergency braking. Regulators are projecting it'll save over 25,000 lives by 2038. And basically, this is facial recognition. But I wanted to get your take on one, how do you feel about the government in general, in this case, the EU, regulating and then mandating this be a thing as it relates to facial recognition and as it relates to privacy? And then number 2, do you think anything like that will fly over here in the US?
I'll answer the second question first. I don't think that would fly over here. Too many lobby groups, too much uproar. You can't tell me what to do. I have my rights, kind of thing. And I will say, back to question one, Big Brother's watching. This seems to be to me a huge overstep, and I think by adding in the part that says it'll save over 25,000 lives by 2038, that's kind of softening the ground. And obviously, that's a good thing to save that many lives. But where does the line end? It starts with distracted drivers. But what can that morph into? It's one of those things where it becomes like a persistent type of monitoring situation where it comes in kind of like a Trojan horse. Speaking of, the Odyssey came out this weekend and people are going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs of it. But it's one of those things where once they make this rule that requires that these cameras are in these vehicles and you don't have the option to opt in or out, it's just in. It leads to me to think, of course, obviously I'm thinking the worst, but what other use cases can they have for this? What other protections and human rights are going to be violated by this? Obviously, this is in theory a good thing, but like we talked about on this show, a lot of things start off with good intentions and then it morphs into something else. And by the time the toothpaste is out of the tube and you're not able to get it back in, and that would be my cause for concern and my cause for pause when it comes to something like this.
So here's a caveat though.
Okay.
Don't quote me if I'm wrong, my EU, my UK people, you'll have to chime in. But if I'm correct, I think the EU, specifically the UK and other places in Europe, are already under, not, I don't want, heavy's not the right word, but they are accustomed to camera monitoring. They are accustomed to facial recognition in public spaces. They are already accustomed to the government putting out
Intrusion.
regulations that keep an eye on them. You know, just think about all the things that the United States has kind of picked up from the EU, specifically with iPhones, right? With the whole
Digital
the
Markets
side
Act.
loading, the Digital Markets Act, GDPR. That's where you, anytime you go to a website and it says accept these cookies or do the management, that came from the EU, right? So I believe that the government, I don't want to say has curried favor already, but I believe that the users and the officials in the EU are already somewhat accustomed to quote surveillance state. So that would lead me to believe that an announcement like this, while over in the US, we're like, man, ain't no
It's
way.
crazy.
Over there, they're kind of like, I mean, you know, if it's going to, you know, cut down on the distracted drivers, because we know you can drive in the United States, you can drive down the road, and I do it. I look in people's cars and you can tell they are not looking at the road. And
Stop paying look attention.
not only are they not looking at the road, but you know they are looking at that
Your
phone.
phone.
I watched one lady drive like 4 miles and she just had to get that text message in because she's got her forearms on the steering wheel and her
Steering with her forearms.
steering with her forearms while the phone is in her hand up near the dashboard, near the windshield to where she can see, but she's doing like this. Like, for those listening, you gotta use your imagination.
Use your
here.
imagination.
But for those who are watching, she is driving with her forearms on the steering wheel and doing like this. And I'm sitting there, and maybe I'm distracted because I'm watching her be
Because
distracted.
you watching her be distracted.
But like for a minute, she's like, got to get this text out. And you know that leads to all kind of fender benders, if not serious accidents, right?
Right.
So,
And especially Georgia is a hands-free state, and they have it on the billboards all the time. Georgia's a hands-free state. You know, you can't have your phone in your hand, but
right. So I say all that to say that I believe that this type of announcement over in the EU, like I mentioned, wouldn't fly over in the United States, no matter how bad we need some sort of intervention to get us out of these phones. I believe that the government over there has curried a little bit of favor to where they can make an announcement like this and there not be a lot of revolt. There not be a lot of pushback because the people over there are, one, they're already used to it. So maybe they're boo-boo the fool for falling for it in the beginning and then letting it build and build and build until now we got to watch you while you drive.
So this is their escalation that that I was talking about, good intent. It started as something else and now it has escalated to this point, and now they're like, just another thing because
Right.
they've gone through the escalation.
Right.
And they don't even recognize the intrusion.
Right. But, say what you will, they're
a lot safer over there.
Exactly. They don't have the type of gun violence we've got over here because they crack down on guns. They don't have the same sort of privacy issues.
You can't even have guns over there because I know the whole thing with the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle thing. They wanted to get like government security because their security couldn't have guns, but in America they can have guns. So it's I think they're already used to having strong guardrails, for the lack of a better term, around safety critical types of things.
Right. So again, on one hand, you could be like, this is what your government dollars and your elected officials should be doing should be doing what's best for their constituents. On the other hand, you say this is how they get you, right?
Mhm.
They start small and say, oh, we're just going to do this little thing. And then they catch you, oh, this time, but it's for this. And snowball into now you can't even be in your car and have a little bit of privacy because there's somebody watching you as you drive, right? So,
Yeah.
so
And I will say I think one of the other caveats is I think people in the EU have a bit more faith in their government
yeah.
than we have here, because if this were to happen here, it would be grift after grift after grift. It would
Mm-hmm.
be violation after violation after violation. I think in the EU, the citizens of the EU, they are likely more confident that the overstep, the overreach isn't, that bad, and that they recognize that their government, recognizes them as people, and, the whole, you know, this side, that side, progressive, conservative. I know their stuff is called different. They have different names or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, the same kind of impact. I don't think they have that relationship with their government with the way that we have a
Right.
relationship with our government. So maybe that kind of greases the wheels as well.
All right, we'll definitely have to watch this and see what kind of advantages or benefits or disadvantages, these
Right.
folks are in now that somebody's watching them even while they drive.
Yeah.
All right, so that is going to do it for second string. We're going to move into for the culture, and for those who don't follow soccer or football, Spain beat Argentina 1-0 in the FIFA World Cup on Sunday, and it seems like the world rejoiced, with the
Mm.
exception of Argentinian players and Argentinian fans. And you could tell that they
Yeah.
were disgruntled. minutes
They should have
after,
played better.
yeah, minutes after Spain's 1-0 extra time win, one of the players from Argentina was filmed going after one of Spain's players in a post-game scuffle. Several Argentine players got physical with Spanish players who were celebrating, and the entire Argentinian team, skipped its post-match media obligations. In addition to, when Spain was offered the trophy by FIFA's president,
Hmm.
the tradition is that the losing team actually not participate, but like give them their props by watching
Celebrates
them.
them.
Well, not even celebrate, just like
Acknowledge.
watches them accept the trophy. Like
Hmm.
y'all did it, y'all beat us, whatever case may be. The whole Argentinian team turned their backs and faced their fans in the stands while the Spain team accepted their World Cup trophy. So I just wanted to add that little tidbit. So all those things, a moment critics call, quote, terrible sportsmanship, while an Argentine newspaper insisted the team showed, quote, values that are rare these days. That reaction fits a pattern from this tournament. Argentine fans were separately accused of directing racist chants and monkey gestures at streamer IShowSpeed. And the video, you can't lie with video. You can watch them throwing water on this dude, throwing stuff at him, and at the Egyptian and Cape Verdean supporters, teams that Argentina beat leading up to them losing the World Cup. On top of, I ain't even done, on top of still unresolved FIFA investigations into chant mocking players of African descent, echoes of a nearly identical controversy involving France's team back in 2024. So I say all that to say it sounds like Argentine players, Argentine fans who are fighting and throwing stuff at other fans, they just went out like they just,
Some suckers.
yes, went out like some losers, literally. So I just wanted to get you, were you watching the game and some of this stuff kind of unfold?
Yeah, I did. And the thing that really, it wasn't just the players, but like the staff, like the water people. everybody who had on some sort of Argentine, you know, uniform turned their back. And it's just like, I think we've seen, and it was, talked about, with Argentine players here in Atlanta. Atlanta is a heavily Black city. There was a lot of racial issues between the Argentinian fans and just regular residents of Atlanta. I saw some videos of an Argentine fan pushing a flight attendant because she was late and they had closed the doors. And all of these were done to Black people. And I don't know the history of Argentina to speak um, with any type of authority. But from what I've gleaned and gathered, there was a huge Nazi contingent that settled in Argentina that led to a lot of this discourse with um, obviously non-Black Argentinians. So to say I'm surprised, kind of not,
Mm-hmm.
because Spain did have quite a few Black, brown. It was a very multi-ethnic team, and it probably just really got their goat that they got beat in the World Cup in America in front of one of the biggest audiences by a team that was that diverse. But in any event, it was still hella disrespectful, and it really showed who they are, but it doesn't seem like they care, especially when their own, did you say it was their government or somebody said, or a news station that said they were, what did you say? They,
It says that it says that the it says that they where is it where is Skip posting da 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 da. It said that they values that are rare these days is what the Argentine newspaper insisted that the Argentine team was doing.
right. So
Values that
they
are
weren't
rare these days.
opposed to this behavior.
Mm-hmm.
They actually condone it. So, when you hear something like that and you see how, their fans and now the players have reacted, it seems like it's honestly par for the course for them. And they are
Mm-hmm.
just, kind of hateful people, especially
Yeah.
as Black folks.
Well, it'll be interesting because once you go down a rabbit hole on social media, they keep the algorithm keeps feeding you stuff, right? So
Yep.
I was starting to watch or be exposed to a lot of TikToks and Instagrams where they talked about the history of Black Argentine people and the whole. I don't want to call it genocide. I don't want to call it ethnic cleansing because I'm with you. I don't know enough, but corroborating all the different stories, you get
Seeing what you see, you get an
you get a
idea.
central theme
Yeah.
of what happened, which again, they were, America is a ethnically diverse country, and you
Hmm.
will, from the airport to the fans, I don't think our Argentine players can avoid,
Yeah.
those interactions, even if they tried to or successfully did some things in their country's history to sort of erase that indigenous and those African descendants in Argentina. All that to say, they tried to make their house a home over in Argentina. But when they
Hmm.
came over to the United States and when they played all these other teams with all these diverse players and these diverse fans, it got to them a little bit,
Yeah.
apparently. So I'm interested to see, does Argentina care enough to try to change the new perception, the
I
now
don't think so.
perception that people are discovering? Because I ain't know nothing about this until right now,
Because
right?
all you know is like Lionel Messi, and
Right,
like he's like everybody loves this guy, and it's like,
right.
wait a minute, y'all are racist?
Yeah, a
What?
lot, a lot.
And not a little racist, a lot racist.
Right,
How did this happen?
right. So I wonder if Argentina will care enough to not rewrite, but to emphasize the things that makes them, quote unquote, a great country,
Mhm.
or will they, you know, go home with their tail tucked between their legs and be
Mhm.
business as usual? Will they even
Yeah.
try to PR damage control their, not only their on field antics, but actually
With their
the
fans.
idea that we as people have now developed as a result of being exposed to Argentina.
This is the word is I guess I will have to say this is probably America's most view or look into the culture there. But then can we really talk that much?
No, we can't. And I think, and a lot of Argentina
Probably
comments,
made that point.
yeah, they were like, "Look at you, y'all of all people they got
Y'all
the
to
nerve to
try to be the
talk."
moral police on
Right.
race?
Come on now. Of all people, y'all the ones try to school us
Really?
on diversity and kumbaya, please. Right. So it'll be interesting to see what happens the, next couple years. There's a whole bunch of other smaller tournaments leading up to the next World Cup.
Mm.
What will, I'm interested to see what will happen between now and then, as
Yeah.
far as how we feel about Argentina, especially if they make another run to get back to the finals next 4 years from now. What will they look like? What will
Or
they be?
not even that. These most of these players are professional players in the Euro League. They got to
Mm-hmm.
go back to their clubs
Mm-hmm.
with some of the
Mm-hmm.
people that they played
Mm-hmm.
with who they've allowed their fans to call them very demeaning things. And
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be like on them, like, oh, so this is what you rolling with, bro. This is what you're doing. So they got to go back to their quote unquote regular job, because these are national team roles that they're
Mm-hmm.
playing for their country, kind of like the Olympics. But yeah, they got to go back to their regular jobs and play with their regular clubs with these same people.
Mm-hmm. So we shall see, but we've been exposed. Now the question is, what are we going to do with that exposure?
Right.
All right, so that's going to do it for the culture. We're going to move into for the hookup, and this is a little tip I did not realize until recently. If you have an iPhone with a LiDAR sensor, this is all iPhone Pro models from 2020, which is the iPhone 12 Pro and up. So if you've got a 12 Pro, 13 Pro, all the way up to the current 17 Pro, your phone has a LiDAR sensor in the camera array that will enable you to measure somebody's height. All you do is you open up the Measure app and you stand up. I tried it again. I don't promote nothing that I don't already know works. So I had my wife stand up against a wall. I opened the Measure app because I've got a 16 Pro Max and it has the LiDAR sensor. I stood her up against the wall. I opened the Measure app, and then all I had to do was put her in the frame, and a measuring tape on the side came up to about her head, and it gave her height. I then took a picture, and then you can share, keep it, just to know how tall you are, or you can share it with whomever, right? So that's my tip for the week. A real simple tip. If you have an iPhone Pro model starting with the iPhone 12 on up to now, you can use the built-in Measure app to actually measure somebody's height.
And I will add, I have used this. I think when we talked about, I had a leak in one of my guest bathrooms when I had to send the measurements over
Mm-hmm.
to the insurance company. I used that app and I mapped each point,
Mm-hmm.
of the floor
Mm-hmm.
of the bathroom, and it saves those measurements.
Measurements. Mm-hmm.
And I was able to send it to the contractor, to the
Mm-hmm.
insurance, and they do exactly what the space looked like. So the
Right. And
measuring tape deal is no joke.
yeah, and I've used it too for, measuring things and taking
Mhm.
pictures, but I didn't know it could measure somebody. I just thought
Oh, a
it like,
person.
yeah, I didn't know.
You thought it would just do objects.
Yeah, I thought it just measure, the wall to this wall or the floor to the ceiling, but you didn't even have to click nothing. You just hold somebody in frame and then it just automatically measures their height. Again, if you got puffy hair or you've got a hat on or whatever the case may be, you're going to have to adjust for that. But for instance, like me, just got a straight low cut, the measurement will go right up and tell you exactly how tall you are. So that's my hook. Go ahead.
That's the performance, honestly. Another side tangent. That's the performance of the LiDAR sensors and cameras. A company I work for, we use LiDAR sensors in vehicles, and it helped
Measure distance.
It does distance and people and objects, because if you have the LiDAR sensors on the car, that's how it tells that, say there's a child in front. That camera can sense, the person and the height, to be able to like kind of let the bells and whistles go off. So it's definitely one of the great features that are built into LiDAR cameras and sensors.
Yep, especially if you got kids and they're in sports and those forms. How tall is your kid? You're like, I don't know. Now, if you got an iPhone Pro, you can quickly measure how tall they are so you can fill out those forms, especially for back to school.
Yep.
All right. So that is my tip for the week. And Nica, if you don't have anything else, that will do it for this week's show. Tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere. You can also find the Bragbook app at thebragbook.app.
All right. And you can find me all over the place at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. To connect, to comment, to share with the show, please go to snoboscast.com to get all the details there. And until next week, we are out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.